Today, I want to talk about male aesthetic treatments. I'm recording this episode from the International Master Course in Anti-Aging Science in Paris. Men have always been an important part of my practice. They want to look less tired, to improve their jawline contours, and to reduce their stubborn body fat. All clear, very structural concerns, but they rarely discuss them openly. But something's shifting. Today, more men are attending my clinic worried about their actual skin aging and muscle loss, both facial and body. And hair loss remains one of the most emotionally loaded concerns that I treat. What's also noticeable is how men actually arrive at my clinic. Many come at the suggestion of their partners as they want them to achieve what they've experienced in safe hands, confidence and better well-being. They also arrive through our wellness work, through their own physical training. They want to stay competitive in the workplace, and they want to improve their confidence. Yet stigma still lingers. Across cultures, men seeking aesthetic medicine is synonymous with shame, embarrassment, and perceived threats to masculinity. So how do we reduce that stigma? And how do we understand male needs properly without feminizing the conversation or oversimplifying the biology? To explore this, I'm joined by the brilliant Gerry Muhle. In his role as the head of global product strategy at Galderma, Gerry leads the overall strategy, performance, and development for all business units globally, including injectable aesthetic, therapeutic dermatology, and dermatological skincare. Gerry brings close to 30 years in healthcare, having started his career as a molecular geneticist, primarily in the area of cardiovascular genetics. Gerry and I have worked together over the years across multiple continents on products and strategies that sit at the intersection of science, culture, and consumer responsibility. His unique leadership is helping to define how adults of all ages can engage with aesthetics in a way that feels intelligent, inclusive, and future-facing. And we'd really appreciate it if you like the episode to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and share with someone you love. Gerry, thank you so much for joining me here on Ageless in Paris.
Look, I'm excited to be here, and where better than the annual pilgrimage to IMCAS every year. I think I saw you here last year as well, so it's wonderful to be here, and I've been following the podcast, so I'm really excited to take part.
Thank you, Gerry, I really appreciate it. So I want to just dive straight into a topic that I know you've worked on for so many years, and it's men.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that more and more men are entering the space.
Yeah.
What are you seeing on a global perspective in terms of men entering aesthetic medicine?
Well, I think it's a really interesting time because the trends and the way men are approaching aesthetics is really changing. A lot of what we're seeing at the moment is really hinged on the fact that you're seeing a real convergence of wellness, health, beauty, and aesthetics. It's all converging into one, really aided by social media, of course. For sure, but also aided by different technologies that are coming into the marketplace. I think the standard understanding of the space for aesthetics for men has been around 15% of the population of aesthetic injectables have been men, right? So it's been largely dominated by women. But if you look at different areas of aesthetics, if you look at more body aesthetics, such as cryolipolysis, or you look at GLP-1 usage, or you look at laser hair removal, it's more of an equal split between females and males. And that's really because of the overlaps between men aesthetically have always been into the gym. They've always been into looking more powerful and more strong. And so you parallel that with body aesthetics. So there's been that overlap. But I think as you go into younger demographics of males, you're starting to see a much larger penetration on facial aesthetics, on skin quality and skin care as well. I mean, in recent years, we've seen the emergence of Looksmaxxing from manosphere forums that really started on TikTok. And, that's all about grooming. It's all about the gym. It's all about skincare. There's some extremes to it as well. But that's actually driving a bigger penetration within the aesthetic space in the younger populations. We did some recent data that showed that 53% of millennials, men and women, are now considering more and more that injectable aesthetics is part of their overall health and wellness regime. And I think this is where certainly we're sitting here in Paris in Europe, where we can take a nod to what's happened in North Asia. In North Asia, men have been embracing aesthetics a lot more. If you look at the K-pop phenomenon, you look at the way their faces are sculpted, it's certainly been at the leading edge in terms of men more and more coming into play from an aesthetics perspective.
From your work looking at European perspectives and perhaps North America, if we look at those markets, there's always been a different type of stigma, hasn't there?
Yeah.
With men pursuing aesthetic procedures and medical aesthetics. How do you think that stigma is shifting and why? Do you think it is because of these influences that you've just mentioned or is there anything else at play?
I think at play is definitely influencers. At play is also trends changing. I think that's really important. So we're seeing a bigger trend for the lower face. I mean, we're seeing it in females, but definitely in males. Younger males are looking to masculinize their look, and so that is becoming more acceptable as well. And honestly, I also think it's to more acceptability and normalization within clinics, right? And so how accepting they are of the male population coming in. And I still think there's work to be done there as well, I'll be honest with you. I liken it to, when my twin girls were born, I took them out by myself, God forbid, by myself to a cafe to have a coffee. And this woman came up to me and said, "Oh, wow, you're babysitting the kids." And I'm like, well, I'm not babysitting my kids. They're my kids. My wife sometimes looks after them. Sometimes I do as well. And it's a sort of similar emotional impact that you have as a male walking into a clinic where they're like surprised that you're in there. Some clinics do it really well where they're like, of course you're here. Others are like, oh, okay, you've entered a women's domain or whatever. And I think the more that we can make them feel comfortable, the more that we can socially connect with them or emotionally connect with them in terms of what's meaningful for them, I think is really important. And then I think also understanding in the different age groups and the different demographics, how you take them on their own individual aesthetic journey. Remembering where men aesthetics started was really in the body space, which actually was an offshoot of going to the gym and working out. Then you want your muscles to look good, so you get some laser hair removal or you get some cryolipolysis as well. Now they're looking at whole body skincare, not just the face, but whole body skincare as well. So I think
that's interesting.
Understanding their motivations to be in there in the first place and understanding how the different age demographics respond in the right way is I think, really going to help them understand the space even further.
Gerry, when I look at my own practice, it was always around about 25% of my patients were men. So I think, 18 years ago, that was actually a super high proportion, wasn't it, relatively to the 15% that you just quoted. But I do see definitely an alignment with what you describe as to the types of the new wave of men that are coming through. Sometimes previously it was that their partner would encourage them, not from a place of criticism, but more, oh, you know what, I feel better. I feel safe in this clinic. Maybe this could be an option for you. With regards to, you mentioned the emotional drivers. How do you think the emotional drivers of men differ from women and other genders as well?
Look, I do think there's a lot of overlap, but I do think where it started was around power and strength. And I think that is an emotional driver for them, being confident, being seen as the alpha male, I guess, if you will, and whatever that means. I think going back to some of the younger populations wanting to masculinize their look and being more direct with the treatment approaches that they want from a facial aesthetics perspective also comes from a place of dominant and powerful sort of masculinity as well. But in some of the research that we've done around trend forecasting, one of the trends that came up was around expressionality. And what was really interesting in that was a big trend towards the lower face and the jawline and the chin injectables as well. But being able to express the way that you want to express yourself, whether it's masculine, whether it's gender fluid as well. I think if you go back years, the way that we could express ourselves was through makeup, was through hair, was through the fashion, was through tattoos, for example. You know, like think about the punk movement in the 80s. Aesthetics is increasingly becoming a part of that, alongside other elements that of where you can actually express yourself as well. And so I think emotionally tapping into how that male in front of you identifies how they want to express themselves as well, I think is really important. And I think they're doing it more and more on their own versus having their significant other pull them into the clinic as well. And I think that's definitely a change that we are seeing in the younger populations.
Gary, I love that. I love that cultural awareness and consciousness that you've just described, because I'm also seeing that.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that I've always had with any man that walks through the door, you know.
Yeah.
How do you want to express this masculinity, and where are you at? And
what does it mean to you, right? Yeah.
And definitely seeing more and more work. You know, previously it was, I look tired, I'm losing my jawline contours, I'm concerned about my double chin, but the way that my male patients are just slightly changing the way they're communicating with me is definitely true.
Yeah.
So where do you think the confusion might sit for the considerers, perhaps the men out there who are considering treatment, perhaps they're nervous, they don't know what to do? Where could the confusion be, and how can we make things a little bit clearer for them?
Yeah, look, I think it really comes back to really understanding the motivation first and foremost. I think there's also a lot of misinformation on social media as well, and sometimes they go off into tangents that, you know, we really don't like. Yeah. I think the more and more we can get men into trusted relationships with their provider, their injector, their physician, I think is really important. I think it's important for women as well, mind you, but I think also from a male perspective as well, because I think you want to go on longer journeys with these patients as their motivations change over time. I think it can be confusing when you're jumping around to different providers, whether it be looking for mindfulness or looking for aesthetics options, because as I said before, everything's converging together in terms of health and wellness. They're looking at someone who's going to be able to provide the complete option for them and really understand how their journey might change over time. You know, at Galderma, we've done quite a lot of work on our aesthetic lives. And you know this, Jonquille, you bring up a patient that gets injected live on stage and then you never see that patient again. And so what we're doing now is trying to mirror best practice in the consultation, where we are following the same patient for 15 years now. Fantastic. And bringing them back on stage, you know, in live injection demos to say, you know, what Jane wanted 5 years ago is not what Jane wants now. And so how do you change that? And it's the same with a Simon or a Mark as well. And so that's why I feel very deeply, and now is the time to really deepen the consultation process between the prescriber and the patient, whether it be a male or a female.
Gary, this is what I love about all the work that you do since I've known you for all these years.
That's kind.
There's more set ways of thinking, often within the aesthetics industry, and you following up these patients that are injected onto a podium, I think is absolutely crucial. Yeah. Of course, motivations change. Patients don't operate and live in these silos. Life is life, and how they live their lives and at different points, it's so crucial. So
we're impacted by everything around us, and we go through life changes. You know, maybe we get married, maybe we enter menopause, maybe we've gone on a journey of weight loss, for example. There's so many things that happen in our life stages that require us to constantly think about what is the right options for that patient, whether it be eating vegan, whether it be going to the gym, whether it be having aesthetic products or the type of skincare that they're using. But there's so many tools available to us now that are technologically advanced, that are also safe or safer from what we've had in the past as well. And being able to manipulate those tools in the right way, depending on that life stage journey of the patient in front of you, is really exciting.
It's brilliant. And Gary, it comes back to exactly what you said. It starts with consultation.
Yes.
Because by teaching and educating medical practitioners on an international and global level, that these patients can change, and we need to adapt how we converse with them, how we understand them on this deeper level, so they feel safe to actually be able to express themselves and explore these journeys themselves. When it comes to men, do you think there's a difference between looking well and looking younger?
Interesting. I think it depends on the different age brackets. A little bit about what I was mentioning before. I think the younger population, because of the thing that's been driven by Looksmaxxing, is really about looking strong and looking masculine. I think another piece of work that came out of some of our trend forecasting was this concept of cancelling age. And I think this is for the older male populations. It's also true for females, but also the male populations. Cancelling age is not about anti-aging. It's absolutely not that. Cancelling age is a bit of a mindset. So you have this idea of gender fluidity that we all know about. Cancelling age is this concept of age fluidity. So breaking down the norms of what you should or shouldn't do at your age. And it doesn't necessarily mean aesthetics. It can mean a mindset. It can mean the way that you look or the way that you dress. So, there was a trend a couple of years ago for dadcore. So you had 20-somethings dyeing their hair gray, wearing dad sneakers and dad pullovers, right? But it should also be okay for a 50-something, which is happening as well, to wear Nike Jordans, right? And so they're blurring the lines of what 50 looks like or what 40 looks like. And so that concept isn't just, as I've outlined, at an older age demographic, it's at every demographic. And so I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking for how do I want to look? How do I want to feel? And what's the right aesthetic approach for me based on that?
That's brilliant. And again, it just really references one of the reasons why I called the podcast Ageless, because I think of my patients like this. Just hearing so many of the prejudices that they've been subjected to over many years regarding age and how they choose to age. And so, that absolutely speaks to that. Just wrapping up this part of the conversation, are there any tips that you have for men out there who are thinking about potentially having procedures or entering this space, and any couple of tips for practitioners in how to communicate better with male patients?
I think the tips for the practitioners is definitely make them feel welcome in that space. I think for some men it can be quite daunting making that decision to walk in that space for the first time and working out, what sort of treatment approach that they want to have, but then trying to take them on a journey in terms of the following treatment approaches. I think for the consumer or the male consumer, don't believe everything that you see on social media. Try and find the right sources as well, I think is really important. And I also think being guided by the science. I think with social media, I find that a lot more people are more open to innovation very quickly. And this was not the case before. But sometimes that innovation doesn't come with the right amount of science or the right depth in the science as well, even to do with how trends change. And so it's hard to find those informative sources where you're going to get the right information. But I would suggest that, they inform themselves as much as possible going into the consultation to make sure that they understand what's going to be right for them and what they're trying to achieve out of it as well.
Gary, this has been wonderful.
Thank
you so much for sharing your insights on male aesthetic procedures and the overall wellness market. I wish I could talk to you for longer, but thank you so much.
No, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Men have the right to seek medical aesthetic healthcare without shame or judgment. Supporting health and confidence does not undermine masculinity. In my clinic, this is strategized medical management designed to support performance, confidence, and long-term health. And just like in fitness or sport, discipline creates results. So consistency, correct sequencing, and commitment all matter, be it in skincare or in clinic procedures. Whilst my male patients love their fast results, the very best outcomes are aligned to the effort that you put into what I prescribe for you. There was a lot from today's episode, so here's 3 takeaways. Number 1, structure comes first. Aging well in men is about facial structure, proportion, and restraint. Masculinity and attractiveness are preserved through anatomical understanding, and injectables can be performed entirely undetectably when approached correctly. This is something I've taught globally across 6 continents because excellence in male aesthetics is really important, and it's defined by what remains natural, dynamic, and handsome. Number 2, muscle matters for longevity. Muscle preservation is absolutely central to male aging, metabolically and aesthetically. In clinic, we use advanced technology to stimulate key facial muscles that support lift and structure, alongside body technologies that target muscles such as abdominals, glutes, and calves. The results are longevity-led and completely natural. Number 3, hair is never just hair. Men's hair concerns are deeply personal and biologically individual. We use multimodality protocols tailored to each man's physiology, their lifestyle, and their needs. For hair health, early treatment matters. If you found this conversation valuable, thank you for subscribing and sharing it with someone that you care about. And please let us know the questions that you would like answered in future episodes. As a thank you for being here, you can redeem an exclusive 15% discount off the 1 Power Sculpt in my clinic. Follow the link in the show notes and enter the code MEN15 for 15% off. Together, we are redefining how we age, look, live, and feel. I'm Dr. Jonquille Chantrey, and this has been Ageless.